welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, my partner in crime, Chris King. And Chris, what a eventful weekend. We had the championship situation in college sports, in football, and then, of course, we had the NFL. And there might have been a lot more entertaining games on Saturday than there were on Sunday, from my standpoint anyway. But your thoughts on the week?
There's also a very entertaining game on Friday that we told you to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Between Western Kentucky and UTSA.
Right.
Where, if you we told you, if you went to the fridge, you might miss 2 or 3 touchdowns. Yeah. And I mean, that game ended up 49-41.
Right. And then, as we were talking in the pre-show, you get that situation with regard to the last game in Oregon for Mario Cristobal, who looks like he's headed to South Beach back home.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he'll integrate with that team, and especially in the ACC, which wasn't overly impressive this season. Maybe he can help turn that team around. I mean, you can't really fault Diaz for what he did there. He didn't really necessarily have a ton of personnel, especially after N'Kosi Perry left to go to, Florida Atlantic?
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've got some good pieces to work around, though, with Van Dyke really played well down the stretch at quarterback, and maybe they can get back to relevance in 2022.
Look, I was around the Miami program when Jimmy Johnson was there, when Howard Schnellenberger was there, when Dennis Erickson was there. And they had a bit of a swagger to them. Manny Diaz wasn't there, but Mario Cristobal was,
right,
as a player and as a graduate assistant. And so there is passion from that standpoint. And I will tell you that in the state of Florida now, Billy Napier, now at Florida, you've got, Gus Malzahn over at UCF. You got Jeff Scott at University of South Florida. You've got, Mike up in Tallahassee. You've got a lot of good coaches. The problem is, I don't think anybody in the state at this point in time can recruit as well as Mario Cristobal can. He will keep. There will be a perimeter around the South Florida area, and no one will get north of Fort Myers with Mario. That's
and that might be what they need, is to actually get some talent back into that program, because they've had so many good players end up leaving the state and going somewhere else.
Right.
In recent years, because like you said, a lot of the schools in that state have been down. I mean, even UCF has tailed off after those good couple seasons they had a couple years ago after Mackenzie Milton got hurt. And Florida State, they've been a train wreck. South Florida's been a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And Florida fired Dan Mullen and Todd Grantham, and now that's what Billy Napier is walking into.
Right.
He's going to be well paid for it.
Mm-hmm.
But
he also, not to take this too deep into the state of Florida, but what Billy Napier's deal was that they will give him the money to hire the staff that it requires these days to really run a year-round recruiting organization. And if you go to Alabama, you go to Georgia, you see how they run that thing. They have like a war room that's there all year round. And all they do in that war room is look at tape of high school players from around the country, and who do we need and who do we have to get. It's a 5-star guy, 4-star guy, 3-star guy, whatever it is. They put money into it. And that's something that, to be honest, there aren't that many programs that can do that.
That's true.
Because you're hiring.
One of the advantages he'll have as opposed to when he was in Louisiana.
So basically, there you are, based with a group of people that aren't the coaches. Their whole process is to evaluate talent and how they fit your scheme. So that's a pretty lofty situation. The one thing I did think was quite interesting, and we'll get to all of our parlay picks very, very soon, folks, don't worry, is that I was surprised to learn that Chip Kelly's agent had contacted Florida about the possibility of not Chip, I'm sorry, Brian Kelly's agent had gotten in touch with Scott Strickland at Florida about the Florida job, and if they were interested in having Brian Kelly talk to them about it, which I thought was pretty pretty interesting.
Yeah,
More
because I
than
thought his
anything.
original plan was he wasn't going to go anywhere unless somebody gave him $250 million.
Yeah. Well, that went by the wayside. But I think Scott, from the standpoint of what was going on, I think Strickland looked at it and went, maybe, I don't want two prima donnas here. I think let me get a guy in Billy Napier who is a good, easygoing kind of guy, and we'll let it go from there. And so I
Right.
think we went that route. Brian Kelly would have shopped both USC and LSU and Florida against each other. So that wasn't going to work out. And so I don't think he wanted to get in a bidding war for somebody he didn't know was going to, name recognition alone was not necessarily going to get you there. So
Right.
we shall see what we shall see. All right. Well, enough waxing about what happened over the weekend.
Well, I mean, we did have some success over the weekend on Friday night, especially in college basketball. We told you about Boston College surprisingly being an underdog, and we told you they would beat Notre Dame, and they beat Notre Dame comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
We also talked about Iona with Rick Pitino.
Ricky, right?
They rolled over Rider. We talked about Cornell beating Coppin State.
Mm-hmm.
They won that game. And we also mentioned about the College of Charleston going on the road and hanging with Furman and taking with the points. And while Charleston fell in overtime, they did cover the line in that when they lost by 3 when they were 7-point underdogs. So there were a lot of good college games out there from smaller conference teams that most people don't necessarily pay attention to because everybody's hung up on the ACC and the Big Ten and the Big 12 and the Big 12. And sure, that's great. But there's 358 teams in Division I basketball.
Right.
They don't all reside in those power conferences.
Well, and it goes to your point, which is, what's the value, right? What college, what team, what program gives you the best value for your betting dollar? And
right. If this was March Madness, it's a different story, but we're not talking about that right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're in early December. Got a whole lot of basketball to play before that.
Absolutely.
And the more you know about these teams now, the better off you'll be when you get there.
Absolutely. And the other thing is that, Maryland, a program which has sent a team to the NCAA tournament 6 out of the last 8 years, fired their coach, Mark Turgeon.
Yeah, I was surprised by that myself. Didn't realize there was that much discord between Turgeon and the school itself.
Well, evidently somebody was upset because he wasn't asked back to the dance. And, oh, by the way, Maryland's still not playing well. So firing
not having Daryl Morcell and all the guys that they lost via graduation didn't help them either. I mean, they're trying to rebuild that rotation. And that's tough in the Big Ten. It's tough to be a rebuilding team there. Just ask Indiana.
And then you've got Rutgers, which is a terminal big, dumpster fire over there. But
yeah, but I mean, they were good last year, but I mean, they looked flat on Friday night. They got waxed by Illinois, and that's something that we'll talk about later because Illinois is played Iowa tonight. But
preview, there you go. Coming soon.
I don't know what. I mean, Rutgers, you got Ron Harper Jr. there, and they've got Geo Baker. They've got a good backcourt, but they've got to be better than what we've seen in the early going if they want to have any success and to build off of.
For sure. All right. Let's talk about tonight, and let's get to the hardwood because there's some fun stuff going on out in the state of New Mexico.
Yeah, it's the land of enchantment where New Mexico State's going to go on the road to face New Mexico. That game will be in the good old pit down there in Albuquerque, the Dream Style Arena. These teams met last Tuesday, and New Mexico went on the road and pulled a 108-01-94 upset. So they'll play the other half of the home and home here. The Lobos have been all right under new coach Richard Pitino. That's, for those of you scoring at home, the son of Rick Pitino. He used to coach at Minnesota before he was dumped last season. New Mexico State, they bounced back after that loss. They beat UTEP on the road 72-69 Friday. New Mexico hasn't played since that game last week. And if you look, the numbers aren't great for New Mexico on the defensive end of the floor. They're 284th in defensive efficiency, 345th by giving up offensive rebounds on 37% of opposing misses. They're 273rd in effective field goal percentage, 253rd in three-point percentage, and 264th in two. You add all those numbers up, and it shows you that New Mexico is 333rd in scoring defense, giving up 79.3 points a game. They're facing a New Mexico team that's 51st in effective field goal percentage, 37th in effective field goal percentage. And the big factor in this game really is tempo. If you get right down to it, New Mexico State wants to play a slower pace. They want to keep the game in the 60s and 70s. They're 294th by averaging 66.2 possessions a night. New Mexico loves to run. They're fourth in the nation, 74.2 possessions a game. That's how they managed to pull out the win last week. New Mexico is going to slow it down here. New Mexico State, I should say. Look for Chris Jans and his team to pull out the win, cover the 4.5 points, and avenge that defeat last week in Las Cruces.
You know, the pit actually is a daunting place to play basketball.
Yeah, it's the only place where you have to walk downstairs to get to the floor.
Right. It's dug in, and which hence the term the pit. And it's a very intimidating place when the students show up, and we're still on a bit of a holiday break coming up here, so hopefully
it's quite loud in there.
Oh yeah, it does. It absolutely does. So we went to New Mexico and the Battle of New Mexico. Where are we going now, Mr. King?
Well, let's take a look here, and we will take you to the state of California, where San Jose State goes on the road to face Pepperdine. Now, we told you about Pepperdine Friday night. We told you to fade them, even getting 8 points at home to UC Santa Barbara, the Gauchos, which we've made fun of their hats. And Pepperdine lost by 12. So if you took UC Santa Barbara, guess what? You would have won.
Right.
Now, the Waves aren't the same without Colby Ross and Kessler Edwards, who both moved on after last season. They've lost 6 in a row. Lorenzo Romar and the Waves just 2-8 this season. Meanwhile, San Jose State, they're 0-3 on the road, but they do have 3 straight wins coming into this game. Pepperdine does not score well. They're 310th in scoring offense at 64.5 points a game. They're 302nd in scoring defense and 327th in field goal percentage defense. One big factor here, San Jose State is 11th in the nation by shooting 41.1% from beyond the arc. Pepperdine's a middle-of-the-road team in three-point defense. San Jose State is 5-0 in their last 5 of the teams against winning percentage below 400. They're 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 and overall, and they're 6-1 in their last 7 against teams with a losing record. Take the points and run. I don't trust Pepperdine. They don't score. They don't play defense. They can't win at home. They can't win on the road. But other than that, they're great.
Again, we stress the campus in Malibu for Pepperdine. That's the only advantage at this point they seem to have. And right. San Jose State, to be honest, is not a bad-looking campus either. So
unfortunately, all that does is it'll get you people on the campus. It doesn't mean it's going to get you any players on the floor.
Or fans in the stands, for that matter.
That's true. They might be all out at the beach.
Yeah, I would. So we've been to California. We've been to New Mexico. You talked a little bit. You tipped this one off earlier. So I think we're going to the Big Ten, no?
Yes, we're going to America's Heartland. That's right. The good old Hawkeye Arena. And it's Illinois on the road facing an Iowa team. They're a 2.5-point underdog, but I like them here. Illinois won 4 in a row. Like I said, they waxed Rutgers 86-52 Friday night. Iowa comes off a 77-70 loss to number 2 Purdue on the road, but the game really wasn't that close. Iowa cut it in garbage time to cover the line. If you look, Iowa was beaten 40-27 on the glass by Purdue. Meanwhile, Illinois crushed Rutgers on the boards 45-27. This isn't the same Iowa team you saw last year with Luka Garza and everybody else. They're going to have a real tough time trying to stop Kofi Cockburn, who at 7 foot 285 is bigger than anybody that Iowa can put on the floor. That's going to make a real challenge on the low block or on the glass. Illinois is 8th in the nation by grabbing offensive boards on nearly 40% of their misses. They're 4-0 in their last 4 as an underdog, 4-0 in their last 4 as a road underdog, and they've won 3 straight meetings between these teams. One thing to watch out for Illinois, Andre Curbelo is a question mark with a neck injury. He's missed the last 3 games. Now, he doesn't contribute a ton offensively, but he's a big defensive weapon, and you'd have to think that they would key him on Jordan Bohannon. I like Cockburn to lock down Keegan Murray, who everybody is a big fan of right now and has him in the Player of the Year running. Let's see what Murray does against a guy that likes to just steamroll people near the basket before we start anointing him as, the next greatest thing in the world of college basketball. Dickie V may say he's a PTPer. I want to see it against somebody that's already been there.
Good point. And by the way, not unlike the Pit, Carver Hawkeye Arena is another place where you come in at the top and go down to your seats. So, again, a tough place to play. And this time of the year is starting to get cold out there. So it should be a very warm building for a very good game between Illinois and Iowa.
Always great when you have those Big Ten games.
Yeah.
It's going to be physical. You're going to have a lot of banging and hanging and banging and everything else. Right. You might not see a ton of points.
Hey, but there'll be more hitting in that game than Indiana had when they played Illinois in football. So it'll definitely be interesting to be sure.
You know what you sign up for when you go to the Big Ten.
Right. Don't go there if you're frail. You will not last long. So, all right, we've gotten 3 big games off in the college ranks. Is it time, my friend, to hit the ice?
Yes, it is.
All right. Where we go?
Like we said, it was a weak slate for the college basketball. It's a better slate for the NHL. I'm taking the Avalanche on the road in the city of brotherly love as they face the Flyers. The Flyers actually 0-6-2 in their last 8. I screwed up, put 0-7-1. Their last win came November 16th when they beat the Flames in overtime. The Flyers will have a new coach as Alain Vigneault was fired this morning, as well as assistant coach Michel Therrien. So it'll be Mike Yeo, former head coach of the Wild, and an assistant with the Flyers taking over the reins, at least on the interim basis. Philadelphia playing the second game of a back-to-back here. They got waxed 7-1 by Tampa Bay Sunday night. It'll be Martin Jones in goal instead of Carter Hart. The Avalanche has struggled with goaltending of their own lately as Darcy Kemper's been sidelined, but it's hard to argue with a team that averages 4 goals a game, which leads the league. Meanwhile, Philadelphia's just 28th in goals per game, which doesn't bode well when your goaltending is mediocre. The Flyers have lost 9 of their last 10 in the second game of a back-to-back. They're 0-6 after scoring 2 goals or less. They're 0-5 in their last 5 after losing by at least 3 goals. Sure, Colorado's given up a ton of goals lately. They gave up 8 to the Maple Leafs. They gave up 6 to the Senators in a loss Saturday night. But in between those, they gave up 1 goal to a Montreal team that's just as offensively challenged as the Flyers. And with Philadelphia, a team in complete disarray now and with no coach, it's hard to have any faith in you, especially after you just got destroyed. Now, granted, Tampa Bay is a 2-time Stanley Cup champ, defending champ. But to lose 7-1 in your own building, I mean, obviously, maybe they tuned out Vigneault, but you were paying that guy $5 million a year for something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what's up with the Flyers. Cliff Fletcher, he was – or not Cliff Fletcher, I'm sorry. I can't remember what his first name is, but
it's all right.
Chuck Fletcher. Chuck Fletcher is the GM for the Flyers. They made a lot of moves in the offseason. They haven't panned out. How long before we start seeing some of these pieces get shipped out and the Flyers try to recoup some draft picks so they can rebuild this team?
Well, yeah. And when you get a situation where you end up having them play a double situation there, you got some interesting things. It's no coach. I guess the Philly Fanatic is going to be there this evening to oversee things.
Maybe they'll get Gritty in there to be the coach.
That's another possibility.
They could do worse.
That's a good point. All right, so we went to Philly, and now where are we headed, big guy?
We are going to head to none other than the big D, the Lone Star State, the Dallas Stars. I'm going to take it with the puck line at -132 over a struggling Arizona team. Dallas has won 6 in a row, and they've had 3 days off to rest and recover after winning that last game over Columbus. Meanwhile, Arizona's lost 4 or 5. They were waxed 7-1 by Vegas on Friday night in their last game. Dallas has won 9 of the last 10 meetings between these teams, including a 3-2 victory on November 27th on the road at the Gila River Arena. Arizona is last in the league with 1.79 goals per game. They're actually worse than that on the road. They're 3-10-1 and average 1.36 goals per game as the visiting team. Now, I know we were in this situation last week, and I told you that they would lose to Winnipeg when they went up there, and they won 1-0. But obviously, they returned to form with that 7-1 waxing by Vegas. Dallas 8-2-1 on home ice. Arizona is 1-11 in their last 12 after giving up at least 5 goals. They're 1-6 in their last 7 on Monday. They're 0-4 after a home loss by at least 3 goals. Dallas has been on a roll. They've won 6 straight. They play very well at home. You can't put any faith in a team that averages less than 1.5 goals a game on the road. I'm taking the Stars, and they should win this one by probably 2-3 goals because Arizona doesn't score. They're allergic to the net.
You know, we've been doing this now for a little over a week. I sense a pattern here, Chris, and that is if you want to win money, listen to Chris and about the Arizona Coyotes because we've seen a lot of them pop up in our NHL picks, and normally not for a good reason for them.
No, but I mean, when you can't score and you can't stop anybody from scoring, you usually lose.
Normally, that would be the case, yeah. And they play in a building, which is out in Glendale, which is a suburb of Phoenix. And it's a very interesting situation out there. So, literally they're playing in the desert. So
they literally have dozens of people show up.
That's right.
On any given night.
On any given day. There you go. You got more, cactus out there than you got people coming to see the Coyotes play. All right. We have beaten Arizona to death. Let's move on. Where are we going this time, Chris?
All right. We're going to talk about another team that fired their coach this weekend. That's right. The LA Kings going up to British Columbia to take on the Vancouver Canucks, and it's the start of the Bruce Boudreau era for the Canucks as Travis Green was canned over the weekend after they lost 4-1 to Pittsburgh. Meanwhile, the Kings are playing the second game of a back-to-back, but they do come in off a 5-1 road win over Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Oilers Sunday, which was a surprising result.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Vancouver's lost 5 of 7. The Kings 4-1 in their last 5 on the road. They're 6-2 after scoring at least 5 goals in their last game. They're 6-2 in their last 8 after a win, so they actually know how to put wins together. That's something we can't really talk about with Vancouver, who are 1-6 in their last 7 against Western Conference teams, 1-4 in their last 5 at home, and sadly 1-4 in their last 5 as a home favorite. Based on what we see, you can't put any faith in the Canucks. Boudreau's got his hands full trying to turn around that team, given the fact that there's not a ton of talent to work with. He was given a 2-year contract, so at least he has a little bit of job security. But that's probably because he wouldn't take it on an interim or a 1-year basis, which I wouldn't blame him.
Right.
Either way, his era doesn't get off on a promising note here. Look for the Kings, even playing the second game of back-to-back, to pull out a win here. Because Vancouver they don't move the needle. Well,
the other thing is, Bruce probably, got into his hotel room yesterday. So I don't know how much of the Canucks he's seen, or even probably today's the first practice that he's seen. So, as you said, it's going to take him a little while to get his feet under him. And tonight is not a, win one for the Gipper type night for Vancouver, I would think. They're all just wondering what kind of offense because Bruce is a way out there offense guy. I mean, defense is optional with Bruce Boudreau.
Yeah, but they don't have the weapons in Vancouver to win games 6-5.
Yeah, you have to have people who can score 6 goals before you can actually win them at that point.
Right.
But, honestly, it's a bit of an odd fit, but I'm just happy for Bruce. He gets another big payday. So good on him. So we've gone up to Vancouver, and we've been to Philly. So where's next on our travel log?
We're going to go just right down over the border, the British Columbia, Washington State border. They're going to go to the Emerald City, where the Kraken are at home against the Penguins. And the Penguins coming in off that 4-1 road win over Vancouver that led to the end of the Travis Green era. Pittsburgh 6-3-3 is the visiting team this year, and they've yet to get fully going offensively. They're just 20th in goals per game, but they're 3rd in shots. So you have to think there's some positive regression coming for them here. Seattle 28th in the league in goals against at 3.46. we've talked before about the struggles Philippe Grubauer has had there, and I don't see it getting a whole lot easier right away. The Penguins, they maybe have a losing record when you factor in OT losses and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But Seattle, you just can't rely on an expansion team. They're still learning. They're finding their way as chemistry-wise, and you're facing a Pittsburgh team that has been together a while. They've got a lot of success over the last decade or so. You have to think the Penguins can go on the road, build off that win over Vancouver, and take down Seattle.
One of the things that has been so good for the Pens over the years is they actually have played well on the road. And
that's something that a lot of teams can't do.
Right. So, going out and playing, to your point, which is a very good one. Okay, Seattle's at home. The Kraken are probably, very excited to play the Pens. But, the Pens are all business when they're on the road. Excuse me. So my guess is, as you say, they'll take care of business tonight. So we have been to Vancouver. We've been to Seattle. Where are we going next?
We're going to the NBA hardwood. And we got a Central Division clash as the Cleveland Cavaliers head on the road to face the Milwaukee Bucks. Cleveland is going to be a bit gassed in this one. They're playing the second game of a back-to-back and their third game in 4 nights. They beat Washington Friday night on the road. They were home yesterday and lost 109-108 to Utah. And now they've got to go to Milwaukee. Meanwhile, the Bucks come in off a 124-102 rolling of the Heat Saturday night in a game where they didn't have Giannis Antetokounmpo or Brook Lopez, who's played all of about 12 minutes this season with a back injury. Antetokounmpo is questionable for this one, as is George Hill, but it might not matter when you get right down to it. Cleveland's 2-6-1 against the spread in their last 9 of the second game of a back-to-back, and they're 1-4 in their last 5 when their starting 5 play at least 160 minutes in the previous game of that back-to-back set. Milwaukee's 5-0 in their last 5 on one-day arrest, 5-1 in their last 6 as a favorite, 12-4 against the spread in their last 16 at home against teams with a winning road record. And the Bucks have taken the last 6 meetings here in Milwaukee and the last 4 meetings overall. You have to think with Cleveland being gassed, it might not matter who plays for Milwaukee. They should cover the line here and win at home to tighten up that Central Division race, where you got the Bulls, who have been very surprising this season with some of the moves they made in the offseason, leading that division.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of interesting to see the Bulls back in the hunt. It's been a while since that's happened, so good to see Chicago there. But
my son's happy about it, even though he's not thrilled about Lonzo Ball being there. But you take what you can.
Yeah, could be worse. Could be mellow. You never know. Anyway,
that's true.
So we waxed there with the Cavaliers. So where are we going now?
Now we're going to head to the desert again, except this time it's an actual good team playing in Phoenix as opposed to the Coyotes.
Right.
It's the Suns, -8 over the Spurs. Now, the Suns had their 18-game win streak snapped with that loss to Golden State on Friday. Look for them to try to bounce back here. Phoenix is expected to see Devin Booker miss his 3rd straight game. He's got a sore hamstring. Now, the Spurs have won 2 straight on the road, but they're still 4-7 as the visiting team. They beat Golden State Saturday after the Warriors won that game on Friday night in Phoenix. The Suns have an edge on both ends of the floor. They're 5th in scoring offense and 8th in scoring defense. Meanwhile, San Antonio, 15th in scoring offense, 19th in scoring defense. It's still a very un-Greg Popovich-like team. Phoenix has won 3 in a row in this series and 4 of the last 5. San Antonio 2-5 in their last 7 after giving up at least 100 points. Suns 5-1 in their last 6 at home against teams with a road winning percentage below 400, and 8-2 against the spread in their last 10 after giving up at least 100 points in their last game. Sure, San Antonio went on the road. They beat Portland. Portland didn't have Damian Lillard. They went and beat Golden State. Golden State had played Phoenix the night before. Now they have to face a Phoenix team that has 2 days of rest. They might not have Devin Booker, but that is a deep team that the Suns have. And it's tough to keep up with a team like that. And San Antonio, like we said, it's not a Popovich team of yore. They struggle a bit on the defensive end. It could be an uphill climb for the Spurs here, especially since they've already lost at home to Phoenix.
Yeah, the other part of the equation, too, is Golden State and Phoenix are the two best teams, possibly the two best teams in basketball, period, at this point in time.
Right.
And so going down and beating the Suns, as you said, after two days rest, that's no easy task. And I don't see, I don't see how Phoenix loses either. I mean, that's just those two teams, Golden State and Phoenix, just are, to me, they're ending up like last year's in baseball. You had the Dodgers and the Giants battling
Right.
all year long. It looks to me, I don't know about you, it looks to me like Phoenix and Golden State are going to have that same kind of bounce back and forth between the two of them as the dominant two teams in the West.
Yeah, especially when you factor in that, Golden State at some point will get Klay Thompson back. They'll get James Wiseman back.
Right.
Phoenix will get Booker back. They've got some minor pieces that are out too. But, I mean, you can't argue with those two records.
No.
The only problem is, they like to seed division winners. So if you don't win the division, you can end up falling down into the 4 seed, despite winning more games than anybody else besides the team that you ended up finishing second to in the Pacific.
Mm-hmm. No, it's going to be pretty wild, and those two teams are fun to watch play either against each other or against other teams because they're just talented, and you can watch it, and they are teams, which I think is also impressive.
It's a dying breed in the era of the clustering of stars.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that's the Lakers.
Yeah. Speaking of dumpster fires, right? Okay, so we're leaving the Valley of the Sun and the warmth to go.
We're going to go back to the Midwest.
Yeah.
The Washington Wizards on the road to face Indiana. Surprisingly, I was shocked to see Indiana favored by 6, which is why I'm taking the Wizards here. I know both teams are sputtering right now. Washington's dropped 3 of 4. Indiana's dropped 5 of 6. They're just 6-6 at home. They lost to a Miami team at home on Friday night and the Heat were without Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, which is a testament to what Eric Spoelstra can get out of his team.
Mm-hmm.
Washington is playing the second game of back-to-back. They lost to Toronto, but they're 28-11-1 against the spread in their last 40 second game of back-to-back situations. And they're 7-3 in their last 10 against teams with a winning percentage below 400. Indiana's 3-9-1 in their last 13 on Monday, and they're 1-7 at home in their last 8 on 2 days of rest. The Pacers, I don't understand why they're underachieving. They've got a good nucleus there with Domantas Sabonis, Karis LeVert, Malcolm Brogdon. They are missing T.J. Warren, but he only played 4 games last season and is still coming back from that foot surgery that knocked him out. T.J. McConnell won't play. But those aren't guys that you're necessarily relying on to give you big minutes or big production. They're just guys that are in the rotation.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say the Wizards have done a lot better than most people thought. And
that's true.
And you've got a situation with Wes Unseld Jr. As the head coach where he does, we talked about team with Phoenix and Golden State. I think that's probably the biggest thing that he's done in Washington, and that is make it so that Bradley Beal doesn't have to carry the team.
Yeah, and that's what we talked about before too with Harrell and Kuzma and Caldwell Pope. You've got guys that have experience in big games, and they can help shoulder the load.
Right.
And you also got rid of the headache that was Westbrook, who basically was chasing stats more than anything else.
Right. Yeah, he was having too much fun watching his stat line and not enough fun watching the team stat line.
Right. I mean, I give him all the credit in the world. It's great that you average a triple-double and all that. Mm-hmm. But if it's not putting wins or games in the win column, they're just empty stats.
Point well taken. Yes. Okay. Do we have one more game in the association, I think?
Nope.
No, we don't. Okay. Fair enough. We've gone to the college hardwood. We've gone to the ice. We've gone to the NBA. And now it's Monday Night Football. And this one is actually kind of like the old ABC Monday Night Football where you had a game that actually was important. And this one, Buffalo and New England, it's a fascinating game, to be sure.
Yeah, don't look for a ton of style points in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for this. The total has moved steadily down during the week. It opened at 46. It's down to 41 now, and I think it's going to stay under that. if you look at New England has split their 12 games in relation to the total. Buffalo's gone under 6 of their 11 games. Buffalo's first in the league in total defense. They're second in scoring defense, giving up 16.5 points a game. New England fourth in total defense, and they lead the league in scoring defense at 15.8 points a game. Both teams forced a ton of takeaways. New England has taken the ball away 25 times. Buffalo's taken it away 23 times. The under has gone 4-0 in New England's last 4 after giving up more than 150 yards on the ground in their last game. 4-0 in their last 4 in December. 5-1 in their last 6 on a Monday. And pay attention to that bottom thing. Weather is going to be a massive factor. I don't know if you've ever been to Highmark Stadium, formerly Ralph Wilson Stadium, formerly Rich Stadium, Jim.
Yeah.
In December, I have. Ask Dan Marino how much fun it is to go to Buffalo in December.
I can tell you it's cold in September at times in Buffalo. So December definitely is going to be cold.
Game time temperature is supposed to be in the mid-30s tonight with snow flurries. The winds are going to be brutal. They come out of the west at 25 miles an hour. They'll gust up to 45 to 50 miles an hour. It's going to wreak havoc with the kicking game. Mac Jones has never played in a game this cold in his career.
Mac Jones is 3-3 on the road. So, I mean, he's a heck of a young quarterback, but I don't care who you are. In wins of anything north of 10, quarterbacks are a little jittery. When you're getting into
he doesn't have that rocket arm like a guy like Mahomes or even Josh Allen has.
Mm-hmm.
So either it's going to be a lot of dinking and dunking and trying to hand the ball off and try to move the ball on the ground, or it could be a long night because he's going to have a tough time throwing the ball in that wind. Allen at least has the familiarity of playing there for 3 years.
Right.
And we've seen some of the throws that he can make. A big boost for the Bills. Star Latulelele, who's missed the last 3 games in the COVID protocols, is going to be back in the middle of that defensive line for the Bills, which should help against the run. We know that New England loves to pound the ball. It's Bill Belichick's style.
Right.
This is going to be a low-scoring game. We saw a low-scoring game last week on Monday Night Football with Washington and Seattle. Don't expect a whole lot more here.
No. And you've got, like you're saying, with Josh Allen and Matt Jones, you got 2 guys who are – I mean, Allen is a good quarterback, no question about that. But he doesn't have the cannon arm either. So both these guys are good touch passers. But if you've got a 30-mile-an-hour wind, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're Brett Favre or, for that matter, Nolan Ryan throwing it 100 miles an hour. It's still going to get affected.
Right. It's good. One of the things that I've always seen, having grown up there and being in Orchard Park in December and January, is that field can get slick and it can benefit the passing game, because if a defensive back falls down, all of a sudden, I saw it happen with Andre Reed, James Lofton, Don Beatty, all those guys, and the K-Gun era. And it'll be interesting to see what Belichick does to try to scheme defensively, because Brian Daboll is not going to sit there and hand the ball off 35 times. That's not the way the Bills play offense. No.
If you ask any quarterback, they're going to tell you that is a snow problem, to an extent, yes. But the wind is really their biggest fear, because they have no idea what's going to happen. And the thing is, there can be no wind at all when you let the ball go, but by the time it gets into the air, that wind can come up and knock it down. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, that stadium in Buffalo, there's plenty of places for the wind to come in, so it swirls. It doesn't just
it's definitely
north south, right?
Yeah, it wreaks havoc with the kicking game.
Right.
You'll kick the ball and you'll try to. If I've seen guys try to draw it back in or fade it one way and have the wind all of a sudden just decide it wasn't going to go that way, and the kick will end up going wide left or wide right. I've seen. I watched Jeff Jager kick a ball in the 92 playoffs for the Raiders. And Paul McGuire said when he kicked it, he lined up to kick a 45-yard field goal, and it went about 25 yards. And Paul McGuire's like, it's like kicking a brick.
I remember talking to Garo Yepremian one day, and Garo said that that building was one of the ones where, and he was there when the first early, because
Right.
his career was ending at that point in time. He told me that was one of the places where you kicked the ball and was terrified that it was going to literally go back over your head, because he said the wind was just that brutal. So yeah, it's going to be a challenge and a fun night. And if you like defense, you're right. You're probably going to see one heck of a good defense. But at the end of the day, this could be for who's in charge of the East
That's true.
in the AFC, and even if not the top seed, certainly one of the top two seeds, because it looks like the other two divisions are starting to gel a bit. Tennessee, of course, is on their own island, but Kansas City seems to be getting their sea legs back, and God knows what Baltimore's doing.
Yeah, God knows what Baltimore doing. Cincinnati, they had a chance to make a statement yesterday, blew it or cut a 24-0 lead to 24-22, and
Right.
lost going away. Pittsburgh, well, we saw them beat Baltimore yesterday,
Right.
but that doesn't necessarily mean anything because they're still 6-5-1, and
Right.
who the heck knows what's going on with Cleveland?
They don't. So how should we? It's
Exactly.
a fascinating situation. You got Baker Mayfield and that whole group. The talent's there. The execution just doesn't seem to be. So, anyway.
Hey, John Cena, we're wondering if you're backing the Patriots since you're from West Newbury, Massachusetts. I hope not, but you've won enough titles in the WWE that won't let it slide if you are back in New England tonight.
We'll never know. Who knows? All right, so we've gone to college, we've gone to the NHL, we've gone to the NBA, and we put up Monday Night Football. That leaves just a few more things to do, starting with two for the show.
Yep, and we've got that wasn't a great market for these, but there's some good favorites out here. I like the Bucks, like I said, -6.5 over Cleveland. Cleveland is obviously going to be tired. Milwaukee should be able to wear them out in the second half and pick up the win there. The Avalanche over the Flyers, we just talked about it. Philadelphia 0-6-2 in their last 8. They fired their coach. Their goaltending is horrible. You're facing the team that leads the league in goals per game. It doesn't end well at the Wells Fargo Center for the home team. Maybe Gritty will be hired as the new coach announced tomorrow. I also like the Penguins over the Kraken and the Stars with the puck line over the Coyotes. I'll promise if the Coyotes can put together some sort of win streak, we won't beat up on them for 3 or 4 days.
Hey, Chris, for our folks out there who are not everyday wagerers, explain what the puck line is.
Okay, the puck line, it's kind of like the point spread or that you would have in basketball or the NBA or baseball basketball or football, or like the run line in baseball. It's basically you're saying that whoever it is going to win by multiple goals, because it's always 1.5 unless you get some really ridiculous one where you want somebody to win by 2.5 goals or more. So anytime you see it, it's always somebody -1.5 or +1.5. You can always take it's easy to take the underdog +1.5 because there's so many 1-goal games in the league. But they tend to slant the odds against you, so you're not really benefiting from it because you're basically just saying,
right,
well, I know this team's going to lose, but they're not going to lose completely.
Right. So what's the difference between the money line and the puck line?
Okay, the money line is just if you're picking straight up. If you were say the Arizona Dallas game, if you were to play that game straight up, Dallas is going off about -330, so you'd have to bet $330 to win 100. On the flip side, Arizona is going about +270 in that game, so 100. If the Coyotes were to win and you bet on the money line, you would win 270.
But what happens if you have a minus on the money line? I'm just asking.
Oh, like I said, if it's a minus, you'd have to bet $330 to win $100 bucks on Dallas.
Right.
So if you bet $100, you would end up winning about $33 on top of what your investment was.
Okay. So there you go, folks. A little bit of education there from Chris. We've got 4 for the show coming up. You ready?
Yep. Like we said, Phoenix -8 over San Antonio. The Spurs won 2 in a row on the road, but they're still 4-7 on the road, and they have to face arguably one of the 2 best teams in the league, in the Suns, in Phoenix. Phoenix is angry after losing that game the other day to Golden State that ended their 18-game win streak. even without Booker, you have to think that they can take care of the Spurs at home. Now, this takes me to the next one. I'm actually fading Portland at home and taking the Clippers -3. Damian Lillard out for the Trailblazers. So is Anthony Simons. Now, I know that Portland is 10-3 at home, but their last 2 games at home, they've been waxed, including a 31-point loss to San Antonio last week. CJ McCollum is probable with a rib injury. I don't expect him to miss the game, but he could be limited, and he doesn't have Lillard there to back him up. That's not a typo on the next one. The Houston Cougars favored by 33 points over Alcorn State. Alcorn State, of course, best known because that's where Steve McNair played college football. Mm-hmm. The Cougars have won their last 2 games against Cupcakes, winning by 41 and then beat Bryant by 60-some points. I think they can cover here. And then, like we said, the Patriots and the Bills should stay under 41. I don't expect a ton of offense in that game as the weather is going to wreak havoc in Orchard Park.
Well, that might be the story of the day is the weather in Orchard Park. It's funny. All these years that I've seen Alcorn State, I never realized they were the Braves.
I had to actually look it up because I didn't know they were either.
So that was that's new knowledge. I certainly one of the great historically black colleges, Alcorn State, and it's going to be now. I assume they're playing in Houston, right?
That's correct. They're playing at the Fertitta Center.
So now we know. Houston would be a favorite even if they were playing at Alcorn State. I don't know if it'd be 33 points, but they definitely.
I think Houston would be a favorite if they were playing on Mars.
True. Possibly even Houston's banned.
That's true.
But anyway, that's good for them. Now, we've come to the part of the show where Chris is going to give you the disclaimer because we kind of jokingly say it's, go crazy, folks, as the late Jack Buck used to say. But this one is fun and pick and choose Chinese menu style. Chris, take it away.
That's correct. Like Jim said, pick and choose what you want. You can take 2, you can take 4, you can take 6. If you're really brave, you can take all 10. We've had some success out of here. We had an 8-teamer out of here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had a couple 6-teamers that have panned out. So, I mean, just do what works for you.
Even a few 4.
Yeah. So just do what works for you here. I mean, we're just laying out options for you to choose from. We're not saying you have to do them all. If you do, more power to you. But on the NBA hardwood, I like the Bulls -3.5 over Denver at home. The Nuggets just not a good road team. They don't have Michael Porter Jr. They don't have Jamal Murray. Nikola Jokic is trying to do it all on his own. I like the Hawks +2.5 over Minnesota on the road in a battle of 2 teams that are really banged up. Bogdan Bogdanovic, DeAndre Hunter out for the Hawks. Karl Anthony Towns is a question mark for Minnesota after he missed Saturday's game with a tailbone injury. Could be a battle of attrition there. I like the Pistons -4.5 over Oklahoma City. I know you're like, who's going to watch that game? Well, there are people that are season ticket holders in Detroit. They unfortunately would have the first dibs to go to this game as it's a battle of 2 teams that are worst in their respective conferences. But after watching the Thunder give up 152 points to Memphis in their last game, setting an NBA record by losing by 73, I like to think the Pistons can cover 4.5.
That's one of those games where if you're a season ticket holder, you call a friend and say, "Hey, look, you want to go to the game tonight? I'm not going to be able to use my tickets. Why don't you, you and the family take a night over at the arena?" So it's one of those definite giveaway nights at this point in the season for the Pistons and Oklahoma City fans.
Right, and the Pistons have had flashes of brilliance, but both teams come in on, I believe it's 8-game losing streaks. So you're just looking at an ugly game all around. But like I said, if Oklahoma City made Memphis set an NBA record by losing by 73 in a game where Memphis's bench outscored the Thunder by themselves,
right?
I like to think Detroit can cover 4.5 at home.
You would think.
Like I said, I like the Wizards +6 over Indiana just because the Pacers have been brutal. I like the Kings +119 over the Canucks. Like we said, Bruce Boudreau. The Canucks could have definitely done worse getting looking for a new coach. but it doesn't pan out for him here. Coyotes and the Stars, I look to stay under 5.5 simply because, hey, Arizona can score 4 and Dallas can score 4. Arizona can score their customary 1, and they still end up under the number. I like Pittsburgh and Seattle to stay under 6. Like we said, the Penguins aren't scoring as much as you would think. The Kraken have actually been better at keeping games under the number of late. On the hardwood, take the San Jose State plus 4.5 over a struggling Pepperdine team. And in the Battle of the Land of Enchantment, New Mexico State and Chris Jans get their revenge on Richard Pitino and New Mexico on the road. Give the 4.5 points. And finally, since I have to take a look at the game, like I said, playing in Orchard Park is a hostile environment for any visiting team. You can ask anybody from Warren Moon to John Elway to Joe Montana to Dave Craig to Mark Vlasic, Jay Schrader, ask Vince Evans. You know, you can even ask Tom Brady. He despises going to Buffalo, even though the Patriots always used to win when he was there. But I'm going to take the Bills minus 2.5. Buffalo knows what this game means as far as their chances to really avenge some of the earlier season losses that they had that put them in this situation. They play well in prime time. We saw them beat Kansas City at Arrowhead earlier this season. They nearly beat Tennessee, and Tennessee had Josh Allen not slipped on 4th down. And I think that this is going to be a tough welcome to the AFC East game for Mac Jones. Yeah, he's faced Miami and he's faced the Jets twice, which is kind of like, as Gene Smith used to say at Ohio State, the little sisters of the poor. Now you're facing a team that has had success the last few years under Sean McDermott. They won the AFC East last season for the first time since 1995. They've got that taste in their mouth. Josh Allen wants to atone for some of the miscues he's had in recent weeks. Look for McDermott and the Bills to win this one. It'll be a close game. It might come down to a field goal. And if it comes down to a field goal, would you rather no slack on Nick Folk, who's 31 of 34 on field goals this season?
Right.
Would you rather have him or Tyler Bass, who can kick a 50-plus yard field goal while standing right behind the ball? If you don't believe me, look up the videos, folks. When he was at Georgia Southern, during practice, he would stand. He wouldn't get the two or three step run up. He would just stand there flat footed and kick the ball 50-plus yards.
Right, like he was in Australian rules football.
Right, and that man can kick the ball, and he can kick it far, and he can kick it accurate. I mean, he's kicked a 58-yarder this season, and that came in Orchard Park.
Well,
Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if it comes down to something like that late in the game, and Tyler Bass is the one that pulls it out. And a game that probably ends up 17-14, 20-17, something like that. It's not gonna be a pretty game like we joked about at the beginning of the show. You're not gonna see UTSA Western Kentucky here. It's not gonna be 49-41. It's not gonna be 52-46. It's not gonna be anything like that. It's gonna be one of those hard hitting defensive games where you'll hear a lot of the pads popping. And that cold weather, it'll be like watching NFL films with the steam coming out of Dick Butkus's mouth right before he creams some defenseless running back who doesn't know what hit him.
Yeah, looking for the tags on that truck.
Exactly.
I'll give you one. Before we get out of here, I'll give you one little tidbit on Bruce Boudreau. Actually, one of my favorites, and that is, we all remember the movie Slapshot, which Paul Newman was in. It was shot in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And it just so happened that the apartment that they shot for Paul Newman's apartment in Slapshot was Bruce Boudreau's apartment. So there you go. He's gone all the way from having his apartment used by Paul Newman to now becoming the latest Vancouver Canucks head coach. So good on you, Spanky. It's been a long time. Good luck out there. If nothing else, man, you get a 2-year cash in from another NHL team.
Yeah, until somebody else hires you because they saw what you did in Vancouver.
Right, exactly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a lot of fun. Stay tuned. Coming up on Winners and Whiners Sports Betting Network at 3:00 is our buddy Scott. And Scott, taking you back to the window, and they should have, I'm quite sure, some fun things that are on the docket for them tonight. And by all means, come back tomorrow and check us out at 1:30 right here.
Yep, and don't forget we got some good guests lined up coming up in the next few
We
weeks.
do. We do. We got some folks coming. We got Jack Healig. We got he'll be here to talk about the Bulls, and then of course we have Pete Medhurst coming up. Pete's going to talk about the Navy Army. Yeah, he would say Navy Army because he's the voice of the Naval Academy. So Navy, Army, Army, Navy, depends on what part of the service you're in. But that's coming up on Saturday. He'll be with us on Friday. So we got a lot of fun people coming up, and you got Mr. King here dropping knowledge on you. By all means, drop by and hang out with us. So until tomorrow, for Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying all day, enjoy your parlays.